Hey travelers, Mag, I, Inextricable Fate, the Bossman, and his skipper here on day 242 of our trip around the United States. Today is Inextricable Fate's last day with us. He is going to the airport in just a few hours' time, so we do not have a lot of time today. Rather than going out to one of the interesting destinations in and around the city of Las Vegas, of which there are still many I could be showing you, instead, we are out here at the Wetlands Park. It is a flat desert leading all the way up to the edge of the mountains, and it has a ton of geocaches packed within it. There are more geocaches out there that we can hike toward than we'd probably have time to do if we were out here all day, which we will not be. We've only got those few hours until we're bringing our friend to the airport. So we're gonna go hike out in the desert, and we're gonna make as many finds as we can until the clock runs down, and then that's it. That's the end of our day. So let's see how many geocaches we can get in just a few hours' time. Come on, let's go. For our last adventure in Las Vegas, we had considered returning to the Fremont Street experience, or perhaps walking on the Las Vegas Strip again. But with time as short as it is, we decided to do something a lot simpler today. Located immediately east of the Clark County Wetlands Park, across the Las Vegas Wash, is a large stretch of desert filled with geocaches. There are more listings in this stretch of desert than we have any possible chance of completing in the time that we have available to us.
How did the Bossman do after our hike up Roadrunner Tail Trail yesterday?
He slept all night and all afternoon.
He was exhausted after the 1.5 miles we took to get to the top of the mountain, huh?
Yeah, he was out.
But as you can see, he is back here with his skipper today and ready to have some more fun geocaching with us along the trail.
Each of these geocache listings is right within the saturation limits, just barely outside of 525 feet. This meant that we were not walking too terribly far between each of the hides. And just like we did yesterday when taking on the Roadrunner Tail Trail, we rotated who got to find the geocache as we progressed through each listing along the way. While the ones immediately next to the road appear to be hit more often, the ones that are a little further out in the desert only get found once or twice a year. Most are in good shape. But every now and then, we would come across one in need of a little tender, loving care. Always so sad to see a broken container.
Why?
Personally, I think we chose well picking out this spot to come geocaching today. We were all still a little tired from our hike all the way up the Roadrunner Tail Trail and then back down again. So walking through the flat desert and finding geocaches without any major terrain challenge was a welcome sight for all of us. As we have come to expect from the Bossman, he loved being outside and seeing all the beauty the desert had in store for us. He did a pretty good job of keeping us each entertained with his antics as we rotated who got to make the next find.
They do say don't drink and drive, but they've never said anything about don't drink and hike. The Bossman here found one geocache and then he decided, I'm exhausted, it is time for a snack. And as we've established, what the Bossman wants, the Bossman gets.
The majority of the geocache containers we came across were pre-formed soda tubes, but not all. There were also some pretty interesting geocaches to be found among the land of pre-formed soda tubes, including this mousetrap, featuring a bison tube waiting for us to snap our fingers in the retrieval. When Inextricable Fate spotted the prize we were seeking high in the middle of this stone, rather than trying to push it through with a stick, he simply let gravity do the work for him instead. Even the Bossman got involved with tracking down some of the geocaches, occasionally getting his hands dirty as well. This young man is well on his way being a first-class geocacher.
Bossman looks like he doesn't quite understand what just happened. You found a geocache. You did that.
Yeah, hold that.
You did it. That's impressive, man. Hey, these geocachers are getting younger and younger, but they're keeping this game alive for us. Thanks, Bossman.
It's kind of an interesting change of pace to have a day that's not about covering the miles or seeing the scenic sights, but simply about locating geocaches.
There was no pressure to be anywhere except the airport once the clock ran down, so we were able to take the casual pace, make the finds, and if we weren't able to, oh well, we would just move on to the next one. No harm, no foul. Not that we really walked away from any geocaches, mind you. With the 4 of us out here and Aichan helping to sniff, we were able to find all of them. This is very likely the last time that we will be seeing Inextricable Fate before we link up again in Japan. When did we start geocaching together?
September or August 2010.
So coming up on 14 years now, we have been on trips not only all around the United States, but all around the world as well. We did a series of European countries, we've been to Japan, Korea. What's one of the favorite spots we've been to for you? One of, not the favorite.
One of would have to be the mountains in Slovenia.
The mountains in Slovenia were a thing of beauty. We won't talk about the night leading into that, because that's a whole other story. But once the sun came up and we were looking in Slovenia, it was all crystal clear blue rivers with bridge crossings, mountains, and natural beauty in every direction. It was actually one of my favorite countries too. When we did our trip across Europe, you did all the planning for it, right?
Planning is a word. Over-planned, but yes.
When we made our way across Europe, we were not accounting for how slow you go on a lot of the roads. So we took on what would be our normal daily mileage, not knowing that we wouldn't be able to cover that amount of distance in any single day. So pretty much every day of that trip, we ended up having to cut targets, right?
Yeah, there were too many targets anyway.
But Inextricable Fate did a masterful job of keeping us on track and getting the priority targets all through the
I
day.
had perhaps 50 webcams on that list.
Yeah, we got quite a few of those
Got a
too.
lot of them.
Aichan made it perfectly clear that she thought the hike we chose to take on today was much preferable to the hike that we had done yesterday. She has little interest in climbing up to the top of a mountain, but she is all about taking an easy stroll on flat, level ground.
One of my personal favorites was our adventure in Brazil to go find the ape cache outside of Sao Paulo. We had a team of 8 people in 2 vehicles, and we spent about a week traversing through Brazil, starting with the first 3 days on the trails out there to go find the ape cache. And it was a heck of a good time, except none of us being able to speak or read Portuguese. We stocked up on the water to head out there into the rainforest for the geocache and bought several cases of carbonated water. So for 3 days out in the middle of the sweltering rainforest, all we had to hydrate on was warm carbonated water. Yeah, not a big fan of that stuff anymore after that experience.
When trekking across the flat desert landscape like this, you can see for miles and miles. But there are still so many details that you can only pick out once you've gotten up close. And some things have a way of staying hidden in plain sight, like washes that drop below the view that you can see. We did have to cross up and down the wash a couple of times to get from one set of listings to the next, but for the most part, we stayed on the flat stuff that Aichan was telling us she wanted to do.
Our time geocaching together across the United States might be at an end, but our time geocaching together in general is not. Beside us geocaching in Japan, probably later this year, I have every expectation Inextricable Fate and I will be linking up and doing adventures across the world over the years to come. What kind of location you think we might be going to first?
Well, we haven't done Africa yet.
That's right, we do need the African continent. I think you may be onto something here, ladies and gentlemen.
This was a really fun day to get to make some additional finds with Inextricable Fate before his flight back home, and to get to spend one more day with the Bossman and Skipper as well. While I realize that most people don't consider hiking out in the desert for a couple of miles as rest and relaxation, for Aichan and I, this is exactly what we needed to recharge our batteries. With a couple of days of rest in Las Vegas and time spent with family and friends, we will be ready to get back out on the Geo Trail first thing in the morning.
And that is it for today. Just a couple of miles out hiking in the desert, about a dozen cachers or so, and a great time to catch up with our friends before we head on the road to our next destination. Thank you guys for joining us on this entire trip through California with me, Mom, and Inextricable Fate, and the last couple of days in Vegas, taking it easy. Now we're gonna go ahead and let the Bossman and Skipper get a nap. Inextricable Fate get on his flight back to Jacksonville, and I-Town and I are going to get to work and get ready for tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining us. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.